Hi all, Cynthia here from NB Pretty Papers up on the Crafty Maven Getaway channel today with a Art Party Friday. At the beginning you would have saw a inspiration piece, or the inspiration piece for this week, and a part of that was a concrete pavement, I guess you call it. That's what I visualised it to be anyway. It was all cracked and broken, had different tones of greys and blacks in it. So I decided that I'm actually going to try to recreate that as my background. So I've pulled out the watercolour paints here and I'm just splashing around some black, mixing in a little bit of white here and there just to sort of give it a few different shades of grey. And I am definitely trying to go with that look there. I don't know what you'd call that look. Yes, I don't know. I don't know how to explain. You see what I'm doing? I'm trying to have different colours of shades, so it has that look of it's cement that has been cracked and chipped away, and you've got sort of different layers and different shades and so forth. That's the look that I'm trying to go for. So I put one layer down and I dried that off, and now I'm just putting another layer back over top of it just to help get in some more depth and some darkness, and just going to spread that black watercolour paint around a little bit more just to get a few different shades happening. Liking the way this looks. I know that I'll probably cover most of this up because my intention here is to put on a few different shades of or colours of in the background and have, I don't know, rivers is what my mind was thinking, rivers of colour poking out through the top layer. So I put a green down and I really like this, how this looks, and that green I think is very similar to the green. I tried to make it similar to a green that was in the inspiration piece too. So I dry that off and then I come in and I add yellow. This tone is, I think, yes, that's all right. It's also in the inspiration piece as well, but then it's also a similar colour to what's in my final images that I'm going to put on top as well. And then I come in with some red. Once again, there's an image in the inspiration piece, if I remember correctly, of a fox. So it sort of has that yellowy red tinge to it, and also my final image also has a red tone to it as well. It's looking quite disastrous here at the moment, but I'm okay with that because I plan on coming in again in a moment, and you'll see me do that, and covering this up with a light wash of gesso, so you can still see it poking out in the background but not quite as much. So I'm just using a posty pen here to darken up some of the areas again. Probably didn't need to do that step because a little bit later on I do something sort of, you can't see much of it anyway. So, but here you go, just putting a light gesso. So I have quite a wet paintbrush here and dabbing some gesso on. I think I do a couple of layers just to push it back to the depth that I like. Now I've got some acrylic paint here and I want to start to bring back in that grey pavement look again, and so I'm painting some of that on. Going to spray it a little bit more just to make it run a little bit, and then I'm going to come back in with some darker black grey areas just to give it that depth. So I'm liking the way this is coming together. I put a coat on top of that of matte medium just to seal it. Come back in with some Copic markers here to add some shading. Didn't have quite the shade that I wanted. I didn't want straight black. and I didn't want the grey that I had was a little bit too grey, so I'm just trying to lighten them down here. Adds a little bit more depth to the page. Ultimately, I do come back in with a fine paint pen. There you can see it there on the right hand side. I come back in and I sort of sketch around some of the lines a little bit with that. Here I'm just using some pit markers to bring out the colour that's in the background again. So I lost a little bit of the yellows and the greens and the reds, so I'm just using the pit markers just to bring them out a little bit more. And liking the way this is starting to look, to come together. Here I'm just going over around the sort of lines again with grey, just trying to make them stand out. There we go, there's my two images that I plan on putting on the page. So they're just two birds that I cut out of a Frankie magazine, I think it was. So I'm going to stick them on there. Come back in with the pit markers to blend them in a little bit. Happy to use a sort of a brown here because I'm going to draw in at some point branches that the birds are going to sit on, and I intend on doing some twigs, leaves in the background, and I'll be using my brown markers for that as well. Just going in with the pit pens again to add some shading to the birds so they don't look quite so flat on the page. So just adding some highlights. Don't see too much of those in the end. I do go a little bit overboard and I come back in a little bit later and cover them up a bit. Now going around the image with some grey and black. Starting to draw in the branches that I spoke about that they're sitting on, and I'm going to use the lines that I've created in the background, in the paint, as if I had a creeper that was creeping up through the cracks and the lines of the pavers. Well, pavement is what my mind was thinking, but it's actually a night sky. So, but so go in with the a black pen, and I just go over all my markings, add in little leaves here and there. Just to draw sort of like a twiggy creeper. You can see on the bird there on the left, I've got a natural sort of a circle happening there. So I end up turning that into a moon. It wasn't my initial plan to have a moon there. It's just the way the pages turn out. I've decided I'll add a moon. So all my shading and everything's totally thrown out and doesn't really go that well because, I added highlights on the bird and we've got lots of colour. but that's okay. I'll just go with it. So I'm just going to add a moon in behind that bird, just using some pit brush markers to put the colour into that. I go back over that a few times until I get the colour that I like. And I quite like that it has the greys and the blacks from the background are coming through. It sort of gives a bit of depth to the moon itself. So my bird's not standing out enough, so I go in with the black marker and just sort of go around it, add a bit of shading. Now that I've added the moon, I've decided that I better colour these leaves in as well, to make them sort of a bit more of a silhouette against the background. So I go back in and I do that as well. So I drew them initially with a thin black pen, then I went over them with a brown pit marker, and now I'm going back over it again with a paint marker. Come in and I add my quote here, which just says, "The Nightingale sings sweetest in the darkest hour," and that ends the page. I hope you enjoyed the process. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. I love reading all your comments. If you haven't already, jump on to the Crafty Maven Getaway channel and subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos, one posted every day. And if you like this process video, jump on over to my channel, NB Pretty Papers, and subscribe there as well. Thank you very much for watching. I will catch you on the next one. Talk to you then. Bye.